Olá a todos, bem-vindos a mais uma conversa da Look Mag. Hoje tenho o enorme prazer de receber Paolo Gregoletto, que é o baixista dos Trivium. Pois é verdade, a banda vai passar pelo nosso país muito em breve com um mega concerto, juntamente com outra grande banda, os Bullet for My Valentine, e é exatamente sobre isso que nós vamos conversar. Mas antes, vou tentar descobrir mais umas coisinhas sobre o nosso amigo Paolo. Paulo, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and welcome to your talks.
Thank you very much for having me.
I have to ask you one thing. You are a
hmm
member of the band since 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
2004.
2004. I
hmm
was I was taking you a little bit of 10 years also.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. How
Yeah.
did it happen? How did you come and join the band? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I had just graduated high school. I was 18 years old. I had my own band for about 6 years. And, if you've ever been in a local band, I'm sure you can relate. People kind of come and go. It's tough to keep a project going for long term, especially when you're new. So I was looking for other projects after high school, before I went to college, which I ended up not going to college, but I was like, well, before I go, I'd like to give it a shot, see if I can find some other people that are on my same wavelength. And Trivium just happened to have lost their bass player at the time. They had to fill in for one tour, and they had a tour coming up. I offered to fill in. The rest is history. We gelled, we clicked. We recorded Ascendancy about a month or month and a half after I joined. 2 months later, it's like I went, joined the band, and it's been 20 years later. Here we are, touring the world.
Why did you choose the bass?
So when I started with my friends, like we kind of we're gonna do like a little school recital festival type thing. And that was the instrument at the time that was like sort of available to me. It was like I had a couple of friends that play guitar. Nick, who actually played in our band for a little bit, he played drums, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll play bass. And I was a big, the bands I was listening to had really interesting bass players. And then once I discovered Metallica, I was like, well, there it is. That's why I want to play this instrument. And it's definitely been my primary instrument forever. I mean, I can play guitar as well, but I just find myself attached to the bass more. It was my calling.
After these 20 years, if you had to describe Trivium in one sentence for those that doesn't know the band, how
Mm.
would you do it? What would you
Ooh.
say?
Uh, I would say whether it's our music or our live show, we have been uncompromising and dedicated to our fans since day one. I think that really kind of sums it up because it's hard to put like a sentence to describe like our music because I think we've evolved. I think we always have new things we throw in, some things that are always there. But for me, it's more of just the relationship with our fan base has been this extreme bond that no matter what's happened, whether it's been good or bad, we've been able to weather things, whether they're bad or with good things. I think we've been able to propel our band further because our link with our fans is super strong. And I think people that have worked with us will always say the same thing. Like we have a diehard fan base, and that really is, I mean, you really can't put a price on that because, that's what kind of keeps us going. That's what's made us a band that can tour the world and has, against the odds, gotten bigger doing what we do, which is heavy metal.
You have, when we listen to Trivium, we can understand that you have many influences, and that's wonderful because all those influences are absolutely great. And being aware of that, how do you manage to synthesize all these influence, so great influence in all over the years in the sound
Yeah.
that today, when we hear it, we know it's Trivium.
Yeah. I think so when Alex Bent, who joined the band in
Yeah,
2016, our drummer,
2016. Yeah.
I think when he joined the band, once we kind of had like the drums feeling like, you know what, we got the guy now who can do all the things. Then I feel like since then we've been able to synthesize our sound into things that are recognizable to our old fans while also being able to push things forward, but feeling like it's the same band within each record we've done with him. And even with like new ideas we've been coming up with, again, it's like I can say, oh, it reminds me of this record, that record, but like it feels like what we've been doing has just really like gelled into like a sound, a thing. Same thing with Matt. I think it's like realizing what our strengths are, especially for vocals. It's like Matt screams, especially now. I mean, he's really going back to his older styles in the live setting is just like that's our sound, you know, that's what Trivium is. And a lot of times it's like that one or two little things are the ingredients that people need to be like, that's what that band is.
If I had to ask you, looking back
Mhm.
to these 20 years, which was the moment that you will never forget with Trivium?
I mean, the one we probably all go back to is Download in 2005, getting bumped up from the third stage to opening the main stage to
Yeah.
having the opening slot be this incredible event for us, but like a cultural moment in the UK where just we exploded onto the scene. And I mean, it changed the course of our career. It allowed us to tour in Europe like pretty extensively because we had this like beachhead in the UK of like we're a bigger band there and we could just keep going into Europe, keep playing festivals, keep supporting people until eventually it works here. And then we did in Waves and Vakken 2011 and that was
Yep.
sort of the all right, the floodgates are open now. Europe's kind of getting there as well for us. And really it's just like continued to kind of happen because you know when we finally came to Portugal, I forget what year it was, but it was just like oh man, like, you know, finally, like we're here and like the fans have been waiting and it just then that sort of just kind of started to take off. And it's been amazing to see how it can just like blossom over time as you
Yep.
keep going to places and keep again, it's just the sort of like we're not giving in, giving up on anything. We're gonna just keep going. And then the music kind of does the rest. It connects and the fans are there.
Do you think it's important for a band as Trivium, with this size and importance in the music today, um, to still have the courage to take some risks? Do you think it's important to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing that in the beginning and we weren't really even like concerned with like we didn't know we were taking a
You
risk.
were too young.
It was kind of after the fact when it didn't like if something didn't work, we're like, "Oh, I guess maybe we should have thought about that a little bit more." But I think now we're definitely willing to take risks, but I feel like we're more sure of ourselves. So like the risks we take are usually backed up by, you know, if it's music, it's like we've rehearsed it, we've played it, we've kind of thought it through enough to be like, this is a risk worth taking, or just knowing when we did something and not being swayed by anyone. Like we've had moments where like Heart from Your Hate, when we did that, our A&R guy at the time, it was weird. He kind of came back to us and he was like, you know, maybe we should change this or that. And I was like, hell no, we are not changing this. I'm like, one, because you liked it before, and whatever happened, whoever got in your ear after the fact is wrong. This is good how it is. And thankfully, we stuck to our guns because that's one of our biggest songs on, you know, you can look on streaming. It's one of the top songs. And funny enough, it's a song we're not playing on this tour just because this is an anniversary for a record, but it's like,
Yes.
you know, that was a risk, you know what I mean? I could have been wrong, but I knew we were right because we in our hearts we felt that it was the right thing, it was the right song, didn't need to be touched, and we came out on top in that argument. But yeah, that's those are the risks we take. It's like knowing I think it's like we feel it in our hearts like we did it right,
Yeah.
then let's try it, you
Let's
know.
try it. I have the pleasure to see Trivian on stage several times, and the connection that we feel that you have among yourselves,
Yeah.
musicians, on stage is so strong, and it's important for you to maintain that connection and to to make the public and the fans understand that connection between the musicians on
Hmm.
stage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you come to our show, it should be I hope right away you can kind of tell like we as musicians are bonding, that
Yeah.
we are really tight, that we've practiced, that we put a lot of effort into this, getting up there. Not even just our show. Like to me, the lights and the monsters, all the fun stuff, like the window dressing. That's the icing on the cake. But I'm like, when you come, like if you strip it all back, I would hope that you would still get the same energy off the stage because our musicianship and our attention to how things sound and always wanting to be better and improve are coming through the PA system, because that is why we're there first and foremost, is those songs and the connection of those songs between us as a band and also between us and the fans. And then the rest of it is it's like I said, icing on the cake. It's the fun stuff.
Yeah, and you know the fun stuff. We the fans and we in the crowd, we have a real good party with you.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. I just finished the Alex Van Halen book recently.
Yep.
And one of the things I really loved about it was him just kind of saying that, like, their goal was to create the party for the fans. They wanted you to have the best time of your life at the
Yeah.
show, and they would do whatever it took to do that. And I'm like, that to me just really kind of resonated because, when I go out there and I see all those people, it's like, man, you made plans to come here tonight. You're having drinks with your friends, you're waiting to hear the songs you want to let loose. Like, no matter what's happening for us that day, like, we've been dealing with a little bits of sickness going through the tour, but when we get on stage, you got to put your sickness on hold. Like, these people paid to come have a good time. They're gonna leave having a good time, and yeah, I really appreciated that sentiment because I think you kind of sometimes I kind of feel like a lot of bands now don't seem like they're having fun, and I'm like, man, like you're gonna look back one day and be like, you messed up, man. You should be having the time of your life right now. And like, we all have families at home, so it's like to
Yeah.
leave home is tougher now that it's ever been. But I'm like, when we're on stage, I'm like, we better be up there having a good time, enjoying this, because it has to be worth leaving home for
Yeah.
ourselves and for the fans. We have to be having a good time doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. After all these years, how do you analyze your skills as
Yeah.
a bass player? How did it evolve all over the years?
Well, I guess a good benchmark is that Ascendancy is not an easy album. It's very intense. There's a lot of fast parts. It takes stamina. And when we did the record, I would say that was at the top of our abilities. We were playing at the absolute max of what we could do at the time. And now when we play it, it doesn't feel like it's the hardest thing ever to play. So I feel like we have a lot more headroom of like what we can do. Doesn't mean it's not like an easy record by any means, but like it doesn't feel like, oh my God, how are we gonna play this record live? How are we gonna get through it? How are we gonna get it to sound tight with these fast parts? Like I feel like in the beginning, which is what you should do when you're a new band, you really should be playing at your max,
Yeah.
There's no reason to hold back. But now I'm like, okay, we've leveled up because the record doesn't feel insurmountable. It doesn't feel like it's an impossible record to play. And I would say that across the board, even for Matt, like, screaming and singing these songs every night is an intensity, but he's put so much effort into his vocal abilities that it's, again, this maybe 10 years ago, this would have been like, how are we going to do this? Now it feels like, okay, we can do this. We're good. Shogun would be actually, I think, a tougher album to do start to finish because we did like 5 songs from that last year in our set, and those are long ones. They're like it's like a marathon, You're really like, so maybe in the 20 years for Shogun, we'll have to work up to that. It was more of just wow, those are long songs. These are fast, but those songs are long.
What do you think is the next step for Trivium?
New music. I think that's sort of the lifeblood of any band. It's like, what are you doing next? and we're very excited because we have our hangar studio built. It's really cool. I would say it's probably a dream come true, I think,
Yeah.
for any musician. To me, having a studio at our disposal like this, at this level, this quality is like, I guess maybe to go back to the Van Halen references, like 5150, they made that studio because they weren't fully happy with what they were doing in the studio at the time. They wanted full control, control of the surroundings, the gear, everything. And that is what we've done with our hangar. It's to a T made to our specs and our liking. And I think when people hear what we're doing there, they'll be happy, but we're just getting started. I think
Yeah.
2026 is the new music year. This is like the transition year. We're out here celebrating with Bullet for My Valentine. We're playing two records that are very special for both our bands and for fans. But new music is on the horizon. We are thinking about it. We have been working on it. So don't think we're not thinking about the future while we're looking in the past at the moment.
That's a good news for all the fans because
Yeah.
I think with several persons that I've been talking to, they all tell me, but why are they celebrating? They have so many things to
Yeah.
give us again. Why?
I
Why?
know. It is kind of like it's new for us because we've never done this before. We've
Yeah,
never done the full album playthrough, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of freeing because I'm like, we don't have to think about the set list. It's like
it's
those are the
easier.
songs. That's the
Exactly.
order. And there's challenges to that because the last two songs of our album on Ascendancy are like they're probably the least known, of course, because they're at the end, but they're
Yeah.
kind of more, there's a lot more going on to it. The Declaration is like a really intense song. I know for Bullet for My Valentine, I think their last song is like this kind of a ballady, longer song. So it's like not what you would ever put at the end of your set. So like we have to work around like the limitations of a set list and stuff. Now, of course, we play something after it, but we had some ways around it to where it wasn't going to end on a song that's purely just like, okay, that's probably the least known song in the set list, but there's a lot of energy in Ascendancy, so I had no doubt that even if you didn't know every song well, you're going to know what it's about and you're going to
Yeah.
have fun.
Can you tell us who came with this idea for this tour? Which Matt had this idea?
Oh, well, we originally were going to do this before we ever talked to Matt Tuck. We had been talking about, Ascendancy's coming up, 20 years. We always said we were never going to do a full album playthrough until we reach 20 years, because
Ah,
if in 20 years people want to hear these songs from this record, if it's still important, we will do it. We felt that, okay, it reached that threshold of like people still like this record. We still play these songs. It still feels relevant to us. But Matt Tuck came out to a show and there was talk of maybe Trivium and Bullet finally doing a tour together after all these years. So he came out, we were talking, and I was like, we were having dinner with him, and I said, hey, like, I don't know about what you guys are thinking, but we're going to at least play Ascendancy in the UK full. And I think at the time he was saying they weren't sure because I think they were thinking about doing new music sooner.
mm-hmm.
But whatever happened with their plans, they came back and were like, we kind of had some back and forth about what we wanted to do, and we just realized it was going to be a no-brainer for us both to do it. It's only going to happen once, 20 years. We're finally touring together. It's like it makes too much sense, and the ticket sales for this tour for both our bands are two, three times more
Yeah.
in every single city we're playing than the last time we played there. So we made the right decision. I think we're both thinking about new stuff in the future here with new music. So it's like I think to give ourselves a moment to kind of really, appreciate and celebrate these things is fun because in the moment you're just kind of always barreling forward. Okay, new music, go on tour, new music, go on tour. And I like that this is sort of this in between time for us, which is we had a break for about a year to make our studio. We got about a year to celebrate with this record, go out on tour, no expectations of new music, even though I'm sure we will find a way to have something out. And then next year, back onto the normal grind of new music, touring. But this is fun. This is like a nice kind of give ourselves a chance to celebrate.
The fans, the bass fans of both bands, they mix. When we
Yeah.
like Trivium, we like Bullet, and
Hmm.
almost like this in every country. Uh, I think in Portugal will be as well.
Yeah.
So what we as fans of both bands can we expect from the concert?
Well, I think what's like really nice is that us and Bullet kind of have two slightly different shows. I think the records are because we do share a lot of the same fans,
Yeah,
and especially these records. There's similariries to our music on these albums, but there's differences, and the shows are also different. They have a different look. We have a different look. So, like when you come to the show, you're leaving with two bands with distinct identities musically and show wise. I think it's good because you're not getting the same, we're not doing the same thing for each show. So it's different energies, different music, but the one consistent thing through it is each record has really big songs.
yep.
So you'll be jumping, screaming, moshing, singing. I like we greatly respect them. I love that record. I think it's a great album. It's held up over time. Those songs are still massive. I sing them in my head too when they're playing them. So it's I think for fans it's a great experience. You're getting two bands. I feel like at the peak of our powers. Our live shows are great. So if you're coming to the show, you're gonna see one of the best ones of the year. I think.
This is not your first time in Portugal. What do you think about the Portuguese crowd?
I mean, next level energy. I feel like we're all I don't want to say I don't want to call it too soon. I don't want to make it easy for Portugal, but
No, don't.
I do think Paris was probably the craziest so far, but we've had two surprises. Belgium and Netherlands were really crazy for sometimes those shows can be a little bit, I don't want to say sleepy, but not as crazy as other places, but they were shocking. So I'm like either these early shows have pulled off something crazy or we're saving the big and best for last. I think Portugal and Spain usually bring some crazy shows. I know maybe Portugal will steal it this time.
You know, we have a lot of energy because we have good wine and good beer. So,
That's it. That usually will do it. I think there's something to it about good food and wine and usually the better weather too, I think
yeah.
can help. I know
Yes,
all about better weather can make you feel really good. So
really good, really good.
yeah.
Paolo, I want to make you a challenge
Yes.
for those who are kind of indecisive to go to the concert.
Yeah.
What would you say to them for them to go?
Well, if you're indecisive, I will say that the show is not that far from selling out. So if
Ooh,
you are thinking about it, I would get some tickets now. We're gonna have some surprises probably for the show, and I mean, there two records that 20 years later I think sound fresh, exciting. If you weren't there to see us 20 years ago, which obviously we didn't play Portugal for a while, so many
yeah,
people in Portugal didn't get to see this record
yeah.
played like in this extent. I think you can come out and really celebrate with us. And like Matt says, whether you've been into us for an hour, for a week, a year, 20 years, we appreciate the support. And I would say it's never too late to come out and start your journey with us. We love new and old fans alike. And, we're happy to just be here celebrating still.
Absolutely. I'll be there. So
Yes.
I invite everyone to come with us and to see Trivian and Bullet from a Valentine on stage on the 26th of February in Lisbon. It will be crazy and it
Yes,
will be a night to remember for everybody.
for
Paulo,
sure.
thank you so much for being here and I will see you on the 26th of
Okay.
February in Lisbon.
We'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.